Hello. This is episode 13. And I am also excited and interested in finding out what happens in our discussion today. I feel as though I'm talking to you even though you're not here with me. So I want to start with, on November 14th, I gave a talk at Jennifer Hadley's Sundays with Spirit, and that's available for free sign up on the replay if you'd like to listen, if you have not. But I want to talk not so much about that meeting, but about what I learned from giving that talk. And we've discussed on these videos what I perceive as the radical now. And if for some reason this is your first video with me, let me say that the radical now for me is this moment underneath any story of what's going on now, any past or future, even inference into my perception of this moment, and even underneath the me of this moment. Now, I didn't quite say that in my talk. I didn't really understand what needed to be conveyed. When the talk was over, they have a lovely 20-minute discussion for the Facebook Live audience while the rest of the service goes to a breakout room. And during that time, I received a great gift because I found out what people heard, and they heard a great deal to drop their personal suffering. But what I realized is that I didn't bring pointers to, and the people that spoke at least didn't get that radical now does not include a personal self. It's an impersonal experience. So yes, maybe it's layers of the radical now. First, we drop the tug of war with whatever we're struggling with, and then we find the relief that that tug of war has left. And then beneath that, if we just open to that moment, and it's not an I and it's not a doing, it's just an allowing of what will happen. What's it like? It's like something that naturally opens, like, I think there's something like an accordion file that if you compress it, it stays closed. But if you take your hands off it, the accordion file just naturally opens. And that's what happens in the radical now from my experience when I realized that I wasn't suffering, when I had been suffering. Before that millisecond, I was suffering over my daughter's death or passing away. I only could say passing away before recently because I needed to hold on to telling people that she wasn't gone. And that need to bring people into my point of view is gone. So I'm fine with the word death now. But getting back to what the radical now is, and let's connect it with the Course. So I believe last time we talked some about the journey to God and the journey in God. And I'd like to say some more about surrender, because I believe the Course doesn't use that word, but it often asks us to give everything to either Jesus or God or Holy Spirit. But what's most important to me is what's in the epilogue, that very first sentence. This is just a beginning. And for me, the this is all of this surrender, all of this giving to God, to Holy Spirit, to Jesus, to the higher self, to whatever, is still a self. It's still two. It's you and there's God. Even if we go back to I'm not a body in lesson 199, it's really saying when it says I am free, I'm still as God created me. God created, if there is a God, and we want to use the word God, we know there's energy. We know there's a quantum field. We know that there is life. We know that for sure. We know that from our experience. So if I am what the quantum field is, meaning God, then I'm not a person. I'm not separate. There's nothing to do. The Course tells us that, but there's also nothing to give. There are no wrong moments. There are no mistaken anythings. I know this is pretty radical, but unless I'm asked to leave my thoughts elsewhere, I have to go on expressing them. I'm not sure what people's reactions are on ACIM Gather. I really haven't heard. But my take is that people are invited to express their understanding of the Course. There's another piece of the Course that I want to bring up. Lesson, what does it say here? 353. My eyes, my tongue, my hands, my feet today have but one purpose. And then it says to be given Christ. But if Christ's consciousness is my impersonal self, it's me, all of me, without a belief in the dreamed separate self. All of me is to be used to bless the world with miracles. Now, I have a different take on miracles too. The miraculous is what is. No fight, no tug of war, complete acceptance. Then all the steps that are asked that require so much mind training and choosing again are no longer needed. I know this is radical, but let's together invite what it would be like to be so empty of a personal self that we're wide open to everything, to infinity, to unlimited power, to be used for, what does that lesson say? To bless the world, and for one purpose. If we are the hosts of the infinite, we are the plug that goes into the infinite socket, and then we become the electricity of infinity. Let's play with, what would it be like? What would we let go of? And maybe before we can actually imagine letting go, we might need to see, how do we feel? How would it be if you weren't a personal self? There would no longer be any striving to be good enough, but you couldn't succeed because there's no doing involved. You already are good enough. So there's no way you could achieve your lifelong effort of being a better person, a better this, a better that, more this, more that. Can't achieve it. Do you feel sad? Do you feel like that's all there is? And you'd be giving up the little self for maybe nothing? Maybe what we're talking about isn't attractive. It truly is nothing in the sense of no thing. But lacking nothing is so wide open that it really is the happiness in the sense of the fulfillment that we've been looking for. We've all been looking to fill our perceived empty tanks with food, with people, with experiences, with highs, with lows, with efforting, with projects. The biggest project has been ourselves, wouldn't you say? Most of us have been trying to fix ourselves or somebody else. Many of us enjoy that project. Maybe we don't enjoy it, we think, but we do it a lot. What would that be like? Would you join me now in a possible experience of letting go? Take a deep breath and feel the edges of your body. Feel the boundaries of your bones and your skin. Today, let's push out underneath your bottom. Probably you're sitting in a chair, unless you're doing something else while you're listening. And if that's so, maybe your feet are on the floor, or you're walking and your feet are on the ground. Wherever you are, pick a boundary. Fingertips, your feet, your bottom. And see if you can actually, for sure, be sure where the line is of the couch and your bottom, or the floor and your feet. You thought you knew where it was, Can you 100% be precise? And now let's go into that edge and move out into the space that recently we've been recognizing. It's usual to see the objects, but lately we've been noticing the spaces. Now, if we weren't a person, there would be nothing that you had to do on your list. Yes, you would be moved today. You would be doing things. But as the Course correctly says, a healed mind doesn't plan. And if you have a plan, you're ready in this moment for a new plan. But let's just relax into this moment and push out from our perceived body into the room and go from the room outside into the weather. And imagine today it's a windy day and our hair is being blown by the wind if we have hair. And if we don't have hair, we're feeling that wind on our cheeks or on our heads where the hair would be. And if we're a wave in the ocean, the wave and the wind are interacting, and we, the wave, are interacting with we, the wind, and I, the sand, is interacting with I, the wind, and I, the ocean. And I, the wave, knows always that I belong to the ocean. I'm made up of the ocean, even though I appear to be different. And there appears to be a current and a force outside of me. And we're all one. As the wave of the ocean, we are lacking nothing. There's no comparison with another wave. We don't need to be bigger or smaller or smarter or get more money or get anything. We just are for the second or minute that we arrive as us in that form. Whatever it is perfect. So there's no lack because there's no goals. There's a completion. And what if we have trouble imagining that this radical now, with no stories of past and future about our lives? What if our trouble imagining ourselves as impersonal is just two things? One, how we've been raised all these years, however old you are, to believe in someone. And in hypnosis, we don't see what's there, and we do see what's not there if we're given a powerful suggestion. And I would say that however old you are is a long enough suggestion to be taught that you're a separate person. But I think there's a bigger reason for believing in a separate self and a dream. I think that reason is that we're used to a filled experience. Being a separate self, we're not filled with happiness and peace. We're filled with mind chatter and feelings. And we don't recognize, or we don't make anything out of that space that drives our car, that connection to the infinite that we have when we imagine being a wave. We think, oh, what a nice metaphor. We don't think, oh, that's reality. We've just got it backwards. But I can feel there is going to be a tipping point when more of us are willing to speak of ourselves as infinite beings. It is not hubris to say we are God. It's doing what the Course has asked us to do. And by holding back and saying we need to keep forgiving, we need to keep choosing again, we need to keep doing this and that to make ourselves better, we are holding back from the biggest miracle. The biggest miracle would be to accept the words from lesson 199, that we are what God is. Now remember that phrase, the lesson to God, the journey to God, and the lesson and the journey in God. We needed all those things: forgiveness, choose again, choose only love because that is what you are. Those were such great assistance. But when you don't need the training wheels anymore, we can give them up. We get afraid. We get afraid that if you take our training wheels, that we'll be even less than what we thought we were. We'll have nothing. But what if we're not that? What if what comes out of being no thing is that we're everything? Come back with me, if you would, to this room. What would the sentence be if I said, first the way it's written, this holy instant would I give you be you in charge, for I would follow, certain that your direction brings me peace. What would that sentence be if everything was certain, because there is only oneness? There's nothing to give and there's nothing to hold back, because everything is one and there's no separation. Then there's no doing. If I were to ask you, what's your first association with the word freedom? Would you say impossible? Would you say hard? Would you say that's for someone else? It's okay if those are your first words. Those are what have been taught to us in our conditioning. But those are not truth with a capital T. We are what God is. I often say, let's not use the word God, because for so many, it's the conditioning of God the greater and us the lesser. But for those of us who have a long love affair with God, and there's a bhakti, love and expansion in our hearts, could we right now open to maybe freedom is in allowing the possibility that I, that you, that we, no matter our localization, no matter how we have been manifested, we are 100% the electricity of the plug and the socket. We are the power. We are the one. And what if for just an hour, a minute, 5 minutes, you choose, you lived as though you were that? What would that be like? I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at rosalindrourke@comcast.net if you want to share your reactions to your experiment. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.